evidently the Brexit vote was a very negative thing for Europe. But part of me felt that the Brexit vote was kind of a good thing for the U.S. elections, because I thought there was going to be a wake-up call. You know what I mean? That almost there was more chance of Trump being elected prior to Brexit. And when Brexit happened, I thought people would go, right, better get the vote out because a thing like that can actually happen. You hear about, there's frequent comparisons between Trump and the Brexit vote. And some people bring up the surprise negative on the referendum for the Colombian peace treaty. And in Spain, there's like a fourth shoe that dropped, which is this political party that we have now, called Podemos, which is sort of a populist, left-wing party. And throughout the drumbeat of these populist movements, we're hearing that people feel that the parliament in Europe or the Congress or the Senate is out of touch with them. And they're angry. They feel they're not listened to. And during the campaigns, sometimes we hear that it's important to listen to these people, to understand them. And I don't really know. It's strange because I think a lot of times people have this belief that their government is going to somehow reflect exactly them. Like the small town and rural British people who voted for Brexit are angry that the European Parliament in Brussels, which has to represent and govern 28 different countries, 25 different languages. You have Mediterranean countries in Europe, you have Scandinavian countries, you have former Soviet bloc countries, you have Western European countries, and all of these elect their representatives to send to Brussels. And it seemed to a great extent that people in rural Britain and small town Britain were frustrated and angry because people in Brussels weren't sufficiently similar to them. And I think a lot of people in the heartland of the United States have the same attitude, and I don't really know if it's a thing that we can really do a whole lot about. This feeling that people have in the Rust Belt or in Nebraska and Kansas and Iowa, that people in Washington do not sufficiently reflect specifically them, because they're never going to. It's a representative democracy, and people are going to be electing congressmen and senators from lots of different states. Are going to be in a lot of different situations, and Congress is never going to look exactly like your neighbors in Minnesota. And I think maybe that's a good thing. That's the idea, that you could have a central government in Europe or in the United States that could represent so many different regions and so many different types of people, and try to get to do the best good for the largest number of people, is not a negative thing. It's not a liability. It's laudable. It's really the answer to the development of parliamentary democracy since the Enlightenment. This is what it looks like. It was never going to really look any other way. As regards populism from the left, I don't know. I think you've seen what we just saw now is very similar to 1968, when a lot of people didn't vote for Hubert Humphrey and voted for Eugene McCarthy, or didn't vote, and consequently Richard Nixon was elected. And I've sort of internalized the idea that progress is going to be 2 steps forward, 1 step back, always. And that 1 step back frequently comes from the need on the part of many people to take 4 steps forward, or to think that they're going to achieve social justice utopia in their lifetimes. Because the number of people who have seen the advent of social justice utopia in their lifetimes is exactly nobody. No one has ever seen it. It's never happened to anyone. You know, it didn't happen during the French Revolution. It didn't happen during the Cuban Revolution. You ask, you know, the LGBT community in Cuba what their lives have been like since the Cuban Revolution. You know, it just doesn't happen. Nobody sees it when they're alive. People see incremental change that dissatisfies them. And their kids, I guess, will see incremental change that dissatisfies them to a great extent. It just seems reasonable that that's the way things are going to go down, to me, at least.